Okay, YouTubers, this is the Angryprepper. So today's episode, we're going to talk about autonomous zone takeovers. And if this happens in your neighborhood, what you can do and what you should expect. Now, we've seen this happen in Seattle, though I think yesterday or 2 days ago, the Seattle autonomous zone changed to occupation zone or organized protest zone, right? So it's called CHOP now, some shit like that, or CHAP. It's stupid. The reason why they changed it is because, not CHAP, it's called CHOP. So CHOP has two definitions. It has, it's Capitol Hill organized protest or Capitol Hill organizational protest, some shit like that. They changed it because, well, they realized that what autonomous really means. And because they're so stupid and they're childish, they didn't realize that by calling it autonomous that they would have received zero help. Because autonomous means to run on your own without any help. So once they changed it, then they started asking for donations and things like that. So they were being bitches. Now, should this happen in your neighborhood? That's the bigger question. If this happens in your neighborhood, there's a couple of things you have to realize before it happens that it's going to happen. Now, let me start out by saying that this can happen anywhere else. The likeliness of it happening anywhere else is small, but nonetheless it can happen. But it's why we prepare, right? We prepare for the little things to the bigger things. The things you need to realize when it's happening is, first of all, a disorderly or organized group of people all of a sudden in your neighborhood that you've never seen before, right? And you start seeing them gather around, hanging out in specific spots in your neighborhood. We all know what trouble looks like, right? So with that, you're going to pay attention more to that. You're going to, have better situational awareness. So as you start noticing this, then you start noticing people hanging out at certain points and groups of people at certain points, almost like guards, sentries. Now, depending on the state, it's going to dictate whether or not they're armed. Here in New York City, they're not armed, so I don't see it happening here because it's New York City. And people will beat the balls off of them before they do some shit like that. That being said, places where you can be armed, that's going to be the problem. Those cities are going to be the problem. You're going to run into guys who are armed all of a sudden out in the street. And that's going to be your telltale sign that you might be running into a autonomous zone situation. So, what do? If you start noticing it, you could bug out immediately. Get the fuck out of it, right? But bugging out, you're giving up your home. By giving up your home, I haven't heard anything with Chaz, but you can be dealing with people breaking into your shit and taking the rest of your preps. That's what you could be dealing with. Or not. They might not take anything, right? They might not break in your home. But nonetheless, if you feel like it's going to become dangerous, you need to go. You need to bug out immediately. Now, someone asked me a couple months ago on one of my live chats, my old live chat, they asked me when would be the time to bug out. If autonomous zone happened in your area, you would have to absolutely bug out, unless you're willing to fight. If you're willing to fight, that's a different ball game altogether. That's an entirely different discussion. Tactical, to be exact. Let's say you decided to stay. The things you're going to need are home defense weapons, obviously. If you're going to stand your ground, you need weapons. Before this happens, you need to go out and get yourself guns. Period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, guys. Like I said, cities like New York is very unlikely. But if your city, like Detroit, for example, which is pretty shitty, but they have a lot of drug lords and gangs and shit, it can possibly happen with them. But they won't call it autonomous zone. they'll just call it their hood, and this is my territory, all that other bullshit. Plus, they're not smart enough to think of that. Anyway, if it happens in your neighborhood, home defense is the first thing you're going to have to think about. You're going to need weapons, guys. You're going to need firearms. Because you're not going to take these guys on with sticks and stones. It's just not going to work that way. This is not a David versus Goliath kind of thing. This is way far serious and real. So firearms is what you're definitely going to need to get. I know firearms right now is probably non-existent, but whatever you can get your hands on, get it. Pretty sure it's going to hurt all the same. As a prepper, you should have food and water on hand. You should definitely have food, water, first aid kit, lights, batteries, comms, communications, two-way radios, or AM, FM radio. You need to have all of that on hand, because a two-way radio is going to allow you to listen to what's going on. Even a radio is going to allow you to see what's going on. Most times they're not going to shut the power off. Like in this case, they didn't shut the power off. So you're going to have to listen up and figure out what's going on. So we already discussed when to bug out, right? We talked about it already. It's immediately when you know what's going on. If you're going to stay in your ground, or for some reason you can't leave, then obviously you're going to have to stay and fight. If you are 70 years old, you're going to have to leave, ladies and gentlemen. If you're an elderly person, you have to go. This is not the I'm going to stand my ground bullshit, because it could end badly. Now, if they're not hurting people, they're leaving people alone, then you can absolutely stay. But this is where situational awareness and knowing what's going on in your neighborhood comes in handy. Now, if you're going to bug out, you got to bug out in the early stages. That's when you bug out, right? You don't wait till warlords start popping up. You don't wait till it gets bad. You bug out immediately. That's when you bug out. Don't take your time. Don't wait. If you start seeing it get bad, you leave immediately. Hanging around is not an option. Trying to wait it out is not an option. Now, let me walk that back a little bit. It was an option in Seattle because it didn't get that bad. They were behaving like children, but they weren't killing and maiming anyone. But we don't know what the next one's going to look like. So you have to pay attention and listen closely to what's going on. I talked about this before, giving up your home. Giving up your home might be something that needs to be done. It's going to suck. I don't agree with it, but unfortunately, you might have to give up your home. You might have to bite that bullet, guys, and leave. Before you leave, make sure you set up somewhere to go, right? Don't leave your area and then you have nowhere to go. Granted, if this is going on, hopefully the city will put you up, maybe. But with Seattle and that shitbag mayor, she might not set you up on anything. She might tell you, oh, well, you shouldn't have left. Who knows? Maybe Red Cross will set you up. But you need a place to go before you leave. So set that up, scout that out, make sure you have another location to bug out to. So here's the other thing. Things that can happen and develop within an autonomous zone. First thing is crime, right? Crime might skyrocket. Depends on how much of the area these guys have or holding on to. Crime could very well skyrocket, all right? Gangs. Gangs could take over. Gangs could tell for example, these assholes in Chaz, this is our area, we got this, and very well push them out with violence. Now, you could have opposing gangs. That's gonna end badly as well, right? Sometimes gangs do know how to talk shit out and come up with solutions. Sometimes. I've seen it before with LA, and not seen it in person, but like videos and things like that of guys making truces and shit. So sometimes that can happen. But nonetheless, if gangs come together, they're doubling up their forces, and the situation can become really bad, right? So now they have carte blanche to do what they want to do. Fires. Uncontrollable fires, guys. That can very well be a problem, especially if you live in a part of town where the buildings are old, like here in the Bronx. A lot of old buildings that are probably over 100 years old or touching 100 years. If you don't let firefighters in, you're gonna have a huge problem on your hands, right? Who's gonna put that out? Not these cowards. Territorial warlords. That's a completely different animal. okay? That's a guy or group of people who take over an area by force and violence. Not asking, violence. Taking everything for themselves. Sort of like our politicians, right? But way more vicious. They will take the food from you. They will take whatever you have from you by force. They'll say, you want to stay here? You got to pay us. Territorial warlords, right? Or just warlords, however you want to look at it. Starvation. Starvation could be a huge problem, as if they don't figure out how to get food in or create food, grow, they're screwed. So starvation very well might be real. Now, if you have territorial warlords and gangs taking shit away from you, you could be starving. Now, if you have the firepower to deal with these assholes, deal with them. If you don't, you gotta leave, because they're gonna take your shit and your weapons, and you're gonna starve. So guys, this is the Angryprepper. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe to this only channel now. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr, and Twitter. And other than that, guys, thank you for watching.